Welcome in. It's the Three Wise Men. Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Holbrook alongside Miles Holliday and Nate Garlock. Gentlemen, get your boots on because we're going down the tournament trail. Do you like that?
Wow, he's so clever.
He's so clever. How are you guys?
Man, it's great.
It's cold outside, but it's warm in here.
It's the best time of the year, isn't it?
It
Who
is.
does not love tournament basketball?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited about it. I don't know why we're wearing boots to go. I mean, I lace up my tennis shoes or sneakers, go to the gym. But you're right. Boots make a lot of sense, Danny. It's good. Let's keep on rolling.
So done with you, too. All right, let's get to it. It's the Diamond Dave Bowen. Best thing we saw all week. I'm not letting you go first. Miles will go first this week.
I need to cover my sheet. I know how you got through school, Nate. I have three of them, okay? And I'm sorry if I steal one because I know Dave Bowen loved this one, right?
Yeah.
How about Rushi on that inbound play? The lob to the lob for the dunk. Was that amazing?
One of us here has been on Rushi's bandwagon all year,
I told
you guys. I don't know why. I don't know why you guys don't listen to me more often. I told you guys at the beginning of the year that Rushi was going to be the team to beat in this area. I don't know why you guys.
You liked a team that was all tall and athletic.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I went out on a limb there.
That's fantastic.
Told you guys.
My second one was if you've never been to Wayne Trace, they have these little guys in the little Raider outfits and they dribble the basketball before the game out in court. It's just absolutely adorable.
They wear the three square helmets.
They do, yeah. And I just picture young Danny Holbrook out there doing it, right?
Paul
a little
Revere.
guy, yeah. But these kids were dribbling appropriately. So, I mean, that's absolutely adorable. I love seeing that at Wayne Trace. And then my last one, Randy Roberts and I were at OG and Shawnee last week, and your son was part of this. The student sections were absolutely fantastic. They had dry erase boards, and they were playing tic-tac-toe. Putting it up, here's our move. What's your move on that one? And then they went to Hangman, and it was just absolutely fantastic. The student section was just having a good time for that game.
Yeah.
For me, it was the Lima Cup was one of my big one. I was there. I had a chance to call that game, and it's always going to be a great rivalry. It's always going to be a big game, but you know, the crowd, the atmosphere, it was electric being in there. It's exhausting watching those two teams play.
It's hard to call it,
the pace and the speed of going back and forth, but it's just a great reminder of the talent that is in Lima and the communities, and it was a great event. It was a great night. They retired Xavier Simpson's number really at halftime, honored him for all that he did, not just in high school, but ever since he graduated and moved on. And it was just a great night and great event. I know there's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes on to putting on the Lima Cup by both schools, and it was just great to see that all come together and for the tonight to go as well as it did for everybody.
Do they do like to do pro athletes after the game? They'll trade jerseys. Do they do that at that game at all?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
No. And then my other one is last couple of weeks, I've been bringing in some outside basketball stuff, and I got to bring in another one. We had district swimming this last week. Lima Senior qualified, their lone district qualifier. Angela Franzelia, she qualified in two events, the 100 fly and the 100 backstroke. She's the first Lima Senior swimmer to go, female swimmer to go to state in over 20 years, and she is the only female swimmer that's ever made it in two individual events.
That's awesome.
So
overcome that and Nate's coaching to get that far.
Yeah, it was all. I can promise you it was all in spite of me, not because of me.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
stay above the water.
I got three things, guys. Got a chance to do the game with Kelsey, Nick, Saturday night over at Ada Temple Christian, and we hadn't been at Ada in a while. And
Was your voice okay?
They were, they were fantastic. The administration over there, Ken Jokums, they were so welcoming to us, and just you can tell when those communities enjoy us coming into town. And then secondly, we got to see a great game. Derek Schultz was incredible. He had a game winner from about 35 feet, and I got to call it, and I screamed a little bit, and I knew you guys would make fun of me, but I you know what? I go into those games, and if it's a moment like that where I think there's going to be a last-second shot, I always tell myself, "Okay, Danny, calm down." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's who I am. It's what I do, and I can't.
And we love you regardless.
Is it true that Kelsey said you put your hand over her mouth at the end? Is that true?
I just pushed her down. I just pushed her down. Yeah.
I got a question. While you were over there, there's been, we've heard stories, and it's almost like urban legend at this point of just this creature, this large creature that just roams the courts of Ada at night. Did you see that?
I saw and he was on the bench. And yes, it was. Now you can only catch a glimpse of him. Like I tried to get pictures.
Nobody really sees
no,
it.
Nobody really
It's always in blur.
Yeah, but he's incredible. And then the third thing is I'm going off the grid, guys, and I'm going. And this is not political, but I'm going off the grid. The Canadians booed us the other night, and then we beat Team Canada. Yeah. Go USA, USA!
Yeah. Beat them a couple
Canadian
different ways.
Look, I think we're all hockey fans. This whole format that the NHL's done is fantastic. It's so much fun,
and it even made it even more spectacular to see that on the backs of NBA All-Star Weekend. Right.
Yeah, one got it right, one didn't.
Yeah. And we get a rematch of Team USA, Team Canada. So I'm super excited about that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a ratings bonanza.
Go ahead and boo our anthem again.
Yeah. So that's what I'm excited about. And, like I said, we talked about this a couple weeks. We've talked about it each week. The amount of people going to high school basketball games is incredible. You should have seen the crowd at Ada Temple Christian. Now, it was a lousy weather night, and the crowd was unbelievable. And Kelsey and I were talking about it during the broadcast, and I know you guys were in packed gyms. It's just amazing.
Yeah, you could easily, being at OG, kind of a down year for OG, right? Yeah. There's a good reason not to go to games. Yeah. They were playing Shawnee. Shawnee was going to probably win that basketball game. Still packed.
It was.
Still packed. So it's amazing to me how much people love basketball in the Lima Land area.
Yeah. Lima Cup, it was a sold out, and Lima Senior Gym, it's a big gym. It is. It's not one that easily sells out even for big games, and everybody came out on, again, a bad weather night. It wasn't the most fun to be out and about, but it, completely packed gym. It was awesome.
Yeah. So as we get ready to go down the tournament trail, gentlemen, Miles makes the show sheet every week, and he's got a little thing on here where I have to sing a song, a yacht rock song about the.
It's an original.
It's an original song about the Delphos St. John's.
Well,
Blue Jays.
they need a pickup. They had a tough loss against Crestview.
They did.
A great win for Crestview.
Yeah.
But still a
incredible.
tough loss.
Yeah.
Tournament right around the corner. They need a pickup, and Danny loves some Elware. So Danny, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 bars of it. Okay. Yeah.
Just 2
Just
bars?
2. That's all we get.
You sang the whole thing on Out of Bounds.
That was 2 bars. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here we go. It's something a little bit like this. It's not too far to Delphos. At least it's not for me. And if the shots are right, they'll be falling all night. At least the ones from 3. Oh, the Blue Jays can do miracles. Just you wait and see. Believe we're going to UD. Oh, it's not a joke, it's not a scam. It's Andrew Easton and it's Cam. And if the shots are right, they'll be falling all night. At least the ones from 3. Oh, we're going to UD. That's it. I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
This show has went off the rails.
Yeah, I'm
5.5.
I'm giving it a 3. It's too pitchy for me, dog.
I gave you more. I gave you a half because you moved around a little bit.
I could have jumped over a Kia car.
Look, I like the lyrics. The delivery, no.
I didn't like that you made a lot of eye contact with me when you did it.
Well, I was trying to bring you into my soul.
It really drove the score down.
I was trying to bring you into my soul.
Yeah.
It was awkward.
Yeah.
I'm glad. The best part about it is we have it on recording.
But here's the thing. The best part about it is Nick can edit it, and it can be anybody.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
singing.
sure that's what will happen.
Yeah.
No, this might be the turning point for DSJ.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when we come back, we're gonna go down the tournament trail, and we'll have some guests on here. So hope you guys enjoyed.
It was a great
that.
performance, Danny.
Yeah. Thanks. It's interview time, and our interview is brought to you by Army's Auto Wrecking. Army's Auto Wrecking is paying cash for your junk cars and trucks. Call Army's at 419-225-1896. And guys, we've had a lot of interviews this year, but I'm telling you, the star power is shining tonight. We are welcoming into the studio Rilynn Jones and Lauryn Auchmuty. Ladies, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let's get right to it. Riylnn, I want to ask you, you are a athlete at Allen East. Do you think that is a benefit to you? Are you glad that you've done that over your 4 years of high school?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've set a lot of goals for myself, so like just being able to accomplish those in just 4 years is kind of crazy.
And your track, your basketball, what else do you do?
Soccer.
And
then I tried cross country, but that was not it. Not for me.
Well, we followed your career a long way, and all state and all conference, and you're going to Ashland next year, and big things for you ahead, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on all that.
Thank you.
And Lauryn, wow, what a career you've had at Columbus Creek. Grove, up there with the best of the best, all-time leading scorers. Did you ever think that when you started out as a freshman at Columbus Grove that this was how it was going to go, or did you always have that confident drive that, yeah, I'm going to be the best there ever was there?
No.
No, I didn't think it was going to be that high of a scoring, but going into my freshman year, it was one of my goals to get up on the board eventually, so it was just a matter of how high I'd get. So
yeah, and for those younger kids who are watching, because everybody watches this show, Lauren, now, huge ratings,
especially when Danny's not here.
Yeah, right. But I'm here tonight. The work you put in, did you see the results as you were, as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a junior, and now a senior? I mean, the late nights and being in the weight room when nobody else was looking.
Yeah, you definitely see the improvement. Freshman year, the very first practice was rough because you're there with a bunch of seniors who have been there for previous years and they know what they're doing more than you do. And as the years go on, you progressively get better and you become one of those seniors you looked up to.
All right, now, people don't know this, but you guys are actually pretty good friends, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, who texted who today on deciding what the outfit would be?
I think it was.
I texted her.
and I told her I was wearing.
Did you lay it out? You say this is what we should wear, or how'd this conversation go?
I just said I'm throwing on my basketball crew neck and leggings, rolling in.
And then I grabbed a crew neck and leggings.
Some hard-hitting questions here on the Three Wise Men.
This is like 60 minutes, ladies.
What I'm getting to, though, right? You guys are very competitive people. You're good friends. Is it one of those things where you finish a game, you had a great game, and then you want to look to see what she did in her game and kind of measure that? Has that kind of been you guys' career against each other?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see things she's done because she's an awesome athlete. So just when we played against each other at Grove, you broke what was the record? The most points in a game, and I was super happy for her because I got to be there with her for it.
Now, you guys have competed against each other forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get a win against your friend, how difficult is that not to kind of rub it in, or is it fun to rub it in?
I feel like we don't really rub it in.
I don't think our friendship is so close that I feel guilty rubbing it in a little bit. So it's almost as if, hey, you played a really good game today. I was proud of how you accomplished everything, even though you may not have won. And we just kind of go on about our nights and congratulate each other and go to the team.
Yeah, the first thing that when we see each other is always a hug, after each game. So
Nate and I are like that too. But see, it's different.
Yeah, we hug all the time.
It's different for girls. It's different for girls because we pick on Danny when we beat him all the time, don't we?
It's the only thing. That's the only thing we do.
Girl, right? Yeah.
All right. So, obviously, both of you guys very successful in the sports that you guys do. Moving on into college, going to be getting into college athletics in different sports in different areas, but it's going to be continuing your athletic careers. At what point in your guys' career was it hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at this, and I think this is something that I want to do, and maybe I need to take this a little bit more serious?
I feel for me, if it was track-based, it was after freshman year because I just did track to get in shape for basketball and soccer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. So then, once I realized, once I made it down to state, I was this is something that, can happen every year if I start to work hard and, put in the hours.
No.
I'd say I noticed my freshman year, but I didn't really know which one I wanted to do until about sophomore, junior year. And then I kind of had to narrow it down, and it was between either track or basketball. And I feel for both of those, I had a wide range and different varieties of schools I wanted to go to and which sport I actually wanted to do. And then I decided to Findlay, and I was debating whether I wanted to do track along with basketball, just as hey, I've done track my 4 years, and I've been to state 3 years out of the going hopefully the fourth year, senior year. Right. So, it was one of those things, but, basketball came at heart, and I think that really set in at the beginning of this year that it was the one.
Well, and I'm glad you guys talked about, it wasn't necessarily even the sport you thought it may be, because I think, and I talk to a lot of people about this, and there's always conversations going on about specializing in a sport compared to doing multiple things and keeping your opportunities open, because you just never know. And you see that most in small communities and small schools, like Allen East and Columbus Grove, where a lot of kids are multi-sport athletes. if you had decided it was going to be soccer or basketball and that's what you were going to focus on, you never even would have found track, and vice versa. You guys gave you guys yourselves more opportunities. What is it like coming from those small communities where there is all this, sports are just different in small communities. I mean, they just are. And kind of that push to just know it's never really even like a conversation of I'm only going to do one thing. Everybody just, if you're athletic and you like sports, you're going to do multiple things. What's that been like coming from those communities?
It's awesome. I mean, the community, sorry. The community is like a good part of it because everybody's like there supporting everybody, and like everybody at like a small school is like together and like super like comfortable with each other. So like for us girls like going sport to sport together, it just builds our friendships.
Now you guys have a chance. I mean, you both won your first round of the tournament, right? There's a chance you guys win the next round. You guys will face each other in the tournament. What would that moment be like right before the ball's tipped and you're looking at each other, knowing that you're going to play, and one of us is going to not play after today? How difficult is that going to be that day?
It would definitely be super difficult to even think. I wouldn't even want to think about that.
I'd say going into the game, we'll probably hug and say good luck, and then we'll kind of be joking around the first couple minutes of the game until we realize that it's actually serious. And then, it sets in eventually towards the fourth quarter. You're going to know who's going to win and who's not, and it kind of sets in whether – like, hey, how does she actually feel right now, and vice versa. So it's just one of those things where after the game you just got to talk with each other again, make sure we're okay, and, give them courage for the next sport would be track for Riylnn, and just that's where it's at for her.
Ladies, obviously, with all your athletic success, a lot of people to thank and a lot of people along the way that have helped you out. Your dads are both offset here, and they're here to, enjoy this evening tonight. And can you talk about your families and what they've meant to you the last 4 years of your high school careers? Yeah, my family has been awesome. I mean, from traveling, like, all around, like, states just to, like, be able to play soccer, like, one weekend or go play basketball. Or, like, this summer my mom flew me out to Arizona for a track camp. So it just shows, like, they're dedicated and, like, willing to help me get to my goals. So it's awesome.
I got to say the same thing. We've been playing basketball since 4th grade together, and we've been playing soccer since 3rd. So it's just, our parents get together. We get a hotel, spend the weekend together in a different state, play basketball, and they don't hesitate or say, hey, you're not going to go to this tournament because we don't want to take you. They're always 100% in, and they're always there with us, and they support us through everything, whether that's travel ball or it's school ball, and it's just a bond that our families have together, and I don't think it would ever be broken.
Do you have that favorite thing you like about basketball and that least favorite thing you like about basketball? Basketball's a long season. We talk about it all the time. It is. Football's a long season. Don't get me wrong. Basketball seems like it just, especially in the winter time.
Yes.
Thank goodness we do have basketball in the winter because we can get through a tough winter. But what do you like and what don't you like? You probably like everything, right?
No. I just like being with the team, spending every day with them, and then getting to do team bonding on the weekends. And
that's important, isn't
hanging around with them. It's basically like another family. And then there's not much that I don't like about basketball. I mean, there's obviously going to be practices, games you're going to dislike, the way you played, the way the team may have handled situations, but you just got to move on to the next day and go from there.
Have you guys ever played one-on-one against each other?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we brought a hoop. So, honestly, you guys play one-on-one. Who wins?
Okay, so I would have to say Lauryn because she shoots lights out all the time. So definitely, maybe if I'm driving, I might have a better chance.
I was gonna say you because I'm not a defender. I don't really like playing defense. I'm just there to shoot. I'm not really a defender much. That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason we had to go into a 2-3s because I don't really like playing defense. So I was gonna say you. If any
coaches are listening, she's just kidding. All right, we didn't get Rylynn's answer about what she likes and what she doesn't like about basketball.
Yeah, what do you like?
I would have to agree with Lauryn on like most of it. I mean, for not liking it, there's a lot of ups and downs. Like when we lose a game, we do have to do a lot of running, which I absolutely hate. But yeah, okay, that's
cross country, so it's a short running. She doesn't mind.
Yeah, and then I just like being around the team and like how we act in like the locker room and like before games. It's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, that's really important. And then as you get out of high school and you look back in 20 years, that we talk about all the time, that bond with your teammates and your coaches and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And when you lose it, sometimes you just join a cable company and start calling games with your friends so you can kind of get that back together.
I have to look into that.
Bands back together.
Who are some of the influences that have, outside of the parents and the families, some of the other athletes, whether it's, when you were kids and you saw the girls in high school or professionally, like who kind of influenced you guys in your athletic careers?
I feel like basketball has always been like my favorite sport, and like that's where I always like wanted to go for college. So like I always went to Bath High School games because like I learned a lot from Coach Malk over the years. Oh, wow. So like just like going and watching them, I feel like has really helped me in my athletic career.
How about you, Lauryn?
I'd say for me, basketball-wise, I looked up to all my cousins, from Bailey, Gabe, Blake, Jade, Sage, just anyone that was in a sport, really. They kind of pressured me when I was younger in those 1v1 games and the 3v3 games. So no matter what, they were always there to, help me get through situations. So they were definitely ones I'd look up to for basketball.
All right, so we got through the one-on-one question. We're going to mix in dads now. It's 2-on-2. Dads are playing in this one. Who wins this matchup?
Them.
Why do you ask that?
Well, that was quick. No offense, Dad.
Both of you guys got really tough matchups in the next round. Wayne Trace and Crestview, right? Give us a little bit of a breakdown of what you see against Wayne Trace and what you see against Crestview. What are things that you guys have to do to get wins?
Yeah, I mean, Crestview's a really tough team. We lost in double overtime the first time around, but we have changed our plans, and hopefully I play more than like 8 minutes that game. I had 4 offensive fouls, so hopefully that won't happen again, but I think like after our Lincoln View game, we worked on some things, and we're going to be ready.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but Dave Bowen is refereeing that game. Did you know
that?
Oh,
Dave's not refereeing, is it? No, just don't run into people. It'll be okay.
I'll try that.
4 offensive fouls might be a record of some kind.
That's what people said after.
Yeah, Wayne Trace, I mean, we haven't played them in the 4 years that I've played. We haven't played them in my regular season. We've scrimmaged them. They're a very talented team. And so, we just want to go in, play as hard as we can, know that it could be your last game. And so you got to leave all 100% on the court. You can't bring any of it home with you because there's no guarantees of a tomorrow's practice and a next week's game. And so we just need to come in focused and locked in and ready, prepared to play.
Okay, girls, you have a message to the 8th grade girls that are coming into your programs next year. What's the one thing you want to tell them? Hey, this is what you need to do for the next 4 years.
You just gotta work hard and like be dedicated and like 100% in, because like you can't be the girl that's like halfway in, because then you won't like get better that way, and you're not pushing your teammates either.
Okay.
I'd say for Grove, you just need to mentally be there. You can't, kind of what Riylnn said, you can't be half in, half out. You need to have all your focus needs to be into every practice. You can't be zoned out and off in your own little world and not taking practices seriously. It's not going to end well at the end of the year for you. And if you're 100% in and you're locked in every single practice and you're determined to get the work done, and your outcomes will be very high.
Okay, it's time for the question, girls. I ask everybody that sits in these seats. All right, are you ready?
Yep.
Whatever is the one team that you want to beat the most when you're playing against them?
It was definitely Bath this year, just because that's where my mom went in high school.
Okay.
So.
Did she play basketball?
Yeah.
Oh,
she was on their state teams.
Oh,
yeah, so they were good back then, yeah.
I can't wait for Lawrence. I can't wait for this one.
Grove has a battle between Kalida and Bluffton. So, any sport we play, it's always, that's the team you got to beat, whether it's soccer, football, track. Kalida and Bluffton are the teams you have to beat. It's just the communities are always tight together. And so I'd say one of those two. It's just, there's always a good feeling when you can beat them.
I like both. I like those.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah, those are
that's
good
really
answers.
good answers.
Yeah. Well, ladies, thanks so much for coming, and we really appreciate it. You guys, you're exemplary student athletes. You're exactly the kind of student athletes we want on this show, and you guys have been fantastic. Congratulations on all your success, and you guys are going to do great whatever you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we wish you nothing but success, and hopefully you guys get to play each other one more time.
Yes, hopefully.
Welcome back, gentlemen. It's tournament trail time. So excited to be joined by Dave Bowen and Mark Shine alongside Nate Garlock, Miles Holliday. I'm Danny Holbrook. Guys, thanks so much for coming in tonight.
Really enjoy the opportunity. Anytime to talk high school basketball, you're going to get me at the table.
Agreed. High school basketball, we're in the middle of February. We should have one more week of the regular season, but we kind of changed the schedule around this year, but it's tournament basketball time. We got 5 weeks of excitement for boys.
Well, guys, let's do this. Before we get to the brackets, let's go around the table and let's just talk about what the tournament has meant to you guys over the years. For me, it's the most exciting time of the year. The state tournament has meant so much to me in my life and my relationships with people. And, let's just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think friendship's a big part of it, right? I mean, you get to talk to Diamond Dave, a Crestview legend. Who's seen more basketball in Lima land than Mark Shine and a swim coach, right? I mean, it's all about fun, right? And the great moments that you see in Tournament Trail, and we're probably going to get another great Danny Holbrook call at some point in time during the Tournament Trail.
As long as I get to watch a game, I'll give you those calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been interesting because my path into all of this has been way different than all you guys. I wasn't a basketball coach. I didn't come up in this. I kind of got into this in a different realm, and I owe pretty much all of this to Aaron Matthews, who really got me into this. And then when you're around him around tournament time, you fall in love with tournament time. I mean, he always used to say this is the greatest time of year. He loved everything about this, and honestly, my love for this grew because I got to spend time with him on the tournament trail calling games, and it's just become what it is for me now.
Yeah.
Well, Danny, when I was a kid, and that's been a long time ago, my dad took me to as many high school basketball games as he possibly could. And we would follow Lima Senior until they would lose in a tournament, and then they would find somebody else to follow. And we would follow Shawnee when they had their really, really good teams in the middle 60s. And in 1968, I got to dress for the Lima Senior Spartans. I sat on the bench when the Spartans played in the old St. John's Arena.
Wow.
And in 1975, I went to my very first state tournament basketball game. And I've been to every state tournament since then, except 2020 when we didn't have one. It is like you talk about, it's friendship, it's watching quality games, but it's also seeing people you might only see once a year and reminiscing and talking and just catching up on things about family and basketball and so on. It has meant a great deal to me over my life.
And I don't know, Dave, if there's anybody at this table that's been a part of teams going there, being a fan, being a coach. I mean, you've ran the whole gamut.
Yeah, and you're making the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But I'll have this little hardware here in front of me. and
That is awesome.
just very fortunate, and it's a symbolic of all the players at Crestview over all those years. And then we finally got it done in 2014 for the first time. But the state tournament, it ranges from heartbreaks and obviously jubilation, and again, the kids getting the job done, to the catharsis of when you get knocked out along the way. But at state tournament, you connect with other coaches and you talk about the season, and it gives you that opportunity to let everything go and then prepare for the next season. But yeah, a lot of jubilation and a lot of heartbreak at times too.
That ring tops his Eagle Scout ring. Yeah. So, oh my goodness, he used to tap that on the table all the time. He's so proud of being a Boy Scout.
I have a plaque.
You started to say something.
Yeah, you do.
All I was going to say, and because I mean, obviously, we all are very passionate about basketball and sports, and this tournament, and it clearly means a lot to all of us. And I don't want to. We don't have to go off on this tangent because I know we could, but this is my concern with this new format. Is all the things that we just talked about, and everything that means so much to all of us and so many others, will start to wither away under this new format, because there won't be the weekends in Columbus where you see people they haven't seen since previous years. It's a one-day thing now. We're going to have state semifinals in high school gyms. It's just My biggest fear with this whole thing is that we're going to make things a little less special when it comes to this tournament, and that's a little sad.
You know, Danny, I've said this every year. I get to call a regional championship game that I'm blessed if I have a chance to, and I always say that winning the regional championship is the hardest thing to do in sport. In basketball, because you're playing quality competition and everybody wants to play in a state tournament, and you got to win that game to get there. I lost a regional championship game when I coached at Bellevue. You know, we're this close to being in Columbus, and I know what that means to players and coaches and fans. And you talk about heartbreak sometimes. I understand that from teams.
Yeah, and I have always said that district basketball is my favorite. And it's my favorite because you know the teams. You've pretty much played them maybe once, maybe twice during the year. And, you know, Dave and I, we joke all the time about those great battles between Crestview and Upper Saddle Valley. And when I say great battles, I'm talking about last-second shots that tear your heart up. And I remember the year that my school got through there. And we had that feeling like if we can get through districts, we can get to state, and we did, and we won state. And you guys know it. For small schools, and we're going to talk about Lima Senior and the big schools, and it means a lot. But for the small schools, it means everything. So, all right, guys, let's get right into it. Let's look at our first bracket. And Dave's ready to go.
Let's do it.
It's Northwest 2 bracket. Lima Senior takes on Toledo Waite, and Toledo's start is taking on Anthony Wayne. Guys, let's talk about the Spartans right now. I think they have as good a shot as anybody of making that run to Dayton. They've got all the pieces. We've seen their highs and their lows this year. Let's examine the Lima Senior Spartans.
Well, Danny, first and foremost, who's a deeper team in the tournament than Lima Senior, right? They can roll out 10 guys that are going to help them win basketball games, and they have that guy that can bail them out when they need a big basket. Jaquel Cotton, he is playing the best basketball of his career towards the end of the season. He is a guy that will help you when you need that big basket in tournament time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You talk about Jaquel Cotton. He's just over a week removed from a 40-10 game over at that OG Winter Classic. This last weekend at the Lima Cup, he had 7 3-pointers in the first half. He has space. He can go inside. He can shoot outside. But one of the things that I don't think people talk enough about when you talk about this Lima Senior team is who are you going to guard when it's clutch time? If you're in a close game and you got to say, okay, a lot of times, all right, we know that the ball is going to go to Cam Elwer, right? Or we know the ball is going to end up maybe in the hands of maybe a Will Sensible. Like you kind of know Ren sheets for Crestview, who they're going to design that play up to. When you play Lima Senior, anybody on that floor
Option
can take
A, B,
that
C,
shot,
D,
and you feel the same level of confidence no matter who takes that shot. That is a tremendous asset to have.
You just mentioned Jaquel because LCC came out and decided they were going to play box and one on Sean Foster. They're going to take him out of the game. Yeah. That makes sense.
Right.
And what does Jaquel Cotton do? He makes 7 threes in the first half.
23 points in the first half, and they had a huge lead at halftime.
Exactly. Who are you going to guard?
And I do think it'll be a really great game, Senior and Anthony Wayne. Anthony Wayne has won 7 of their last 8. I've got them both advancing to that game, but I'm going to pick Senior.
Yeah.
Well, and you talk about that game. Anthony Wayne, they got a win against Whitmer earlier in the season. That's a big win. Now, that was a Whitmer team that was missing 3 starters and a key guy off the bench for that one. So a little bit different makeup Whitmer team than you would typically see. I still think Lima Senior can get that one done. I don't think they have any issues getting through that district. They got a tough one waiting for them, though, when they hit the regionals against Winton Woods. That's a very good and very big Winton Woods team. We saw Lima Senior have some difficulty with length when they had that loss to Shawnee. Hopefully, though, they learned enough coming out of that Shawnee game that they'll be ready to make those adjustments against Winton Woods.
The other part about it. Go ahead, Miles.
To build off of Dave's point, though, Anthony Wayne inside can do some damage against Senior, but can their guards play well enough against that Senior suffocating defense? That's going to be the key for that one.
And the regional you mentioned is at Elida.
Yeah,
we're coming from Winton Woods to Elida, and Lima Senior is going to take the bus out.
Well, and if they keep winning, they're not going to leave Elida until they potentially go down to Dayton.
Correct.
Because everything outside after they get out of the districts will be at the Elida Fieldhouse for the Spartans.
And I think we all agree that Lima Senior, Anthony Wayne, will be in the sectional championship.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this, and Miles brought it up last week. The Anthony Wayne team that played Whitmer, and the Lima Senior team that played Whitmer, those were two different games because Whitmer had some starters that did not play against Anthony Wayne. So I think Senior's are going to roll in this bracket. I really do. Yeah. All right, guys, let's go to the Northwest 1 bracket. And this is maybe a de facto WBL tournament, gentlemen. I'm going to go down and give you the brackets here. Lima Shawnee plays Toledo Bowser. The winner will play Bowling Green. Defiance plays Salina and Randy Roberts. And Miles Holiday will be on the call for that game. Wapakoneta plays Holland Springfield. And, hey, if we're lucky enough, we might get an all-WBL sectional final, Defiance, Salina, and Wapak.
I'm a little bit concerned about Defiance, Danny. They were playing great basketball early in the year. Had them for NWOhio.live last week against Archbold. That's a game Defiance usually wins. It's usually a close one. Archbold, a couple divisions lower than them, but they got beat bad. I mean, it was a 14-point loss, but it was really a 25-point lead. Talked to Bryn Lehman after the game. They look like a tired, fatigued team, and they struggle on offense because they put a guy out on the floor that is so limited, but he's a great defensive player. So teams have figured out, well, we'll just play 5-on-4 and let that guy kind of work things out. Now, Khalil Lignon, still fantastic player for Defiance, but they're struggling to score the basketball. I don't know if they get by Wapak, because Wapak, as you saw last week, starting to play really good basketball, right? Now, the top corner, Shawnee all the way, right?
That's where I was going next, Nate.
I mean, obviously, I think Shawnee is the cream here in this bracket. And this is a Shawnee team that came into the season with all sorts of expectations leveled on them. And they did a very nice job of taking those expectations and then turning those into results. They did have a couple of hiccups. They had the early loss against LCC. They had the tough one against Delphi St. John's that I'm sure everybody in that program feels like they should have ended up winning. But other than that, it's been a pretty good season for them. We saw what they did against a really good team against Lima Senior. And I said going into that Lima Senior game, I really felt like if Shawnee was the team that they thought they were capable of and a team that could make it down to Dayton, they had to be able to win that game against Lima Senior. And they passed that test with flying colors. I do think that, this is also in this bracket as we talk through this, though, that Defiance team, nobody expected much out of Defiance coming into this year. No. The Bulldogs surprised absolutely everybody. That always, to me, seems that then that's a team that's right for an upset, right? One that you didn't see coming. They're not under the radar anymore. People are ready for them. They're going to prepare for them. Walpock is playing better. I think Walpock gets that win. I think we could see a Walpock. I think we can get a Walpock Shawnee final.
I like that.
And but I ultimately I just don't think that Walpock has the offense to be able to move beyond Shawnee.
That's a good point.
Mark, Shawnee comes in with all the accolades this year. Yeah. The three bigs. We talk about their length. Mark Triplett, does he get enough credit? I think that guy does a great job.
I think he's done a wonderful job. And early in the season, if you followed the team and you looked at them and then you listened to some of Coach's comments, they had moments where they didn't play particularly well or with a lot of enthusiasm. And I think he's done a really good job of, over the course of the year, has changed that, because you don't see them have many lulls anymore. We were down at the Wapak game. We had a chance to interview him afterwards, and I said, Coach, everybody wants your team to play well for 32 minutes. That's hard to do. What you want to do is how many minutes in a row can we play well, and then limit the short time period when you don't play very well, and they have done that really, really well lately. I think they go a long way. They're going to face Toledo Central Catholic or Southview when they get to the regionals. That's a tough matchup, and Lutheran West is waiting out there too. So there are some teams out there that will challenge them in the regionals. I think they'll roll through the district, though. Dave,
you look at this bracket. It's like I said earlier, it's a WBL tournament. How tough is that when you're the top dog and you have to play guys that know you inside? Now, look, these are good coaches in the WBL. They know what Shawnee has to offer.
Well, yeah, you know what you're facing. You know what's on the plate. And again, as a coach, we always dealt with the Putnam County League schools, and we played them in non-league on purpose in our bracket. It would be some Northwest Conference schools and the PCL. So you're mixing that up like that. And sometimes you like that breath of fresh air where you haven't played that opponent. And then sometimes you're like, well, we know what they can bring to the table and we match up well. It just comes down to how the draw plays out. But Wapak winning 5 of the last 6 and Defiance, are you guys saying that's a toss-up game? Or are we picking Wapak? What are we thinking?
I think Wapak. I think Wapak takes that win.
I like the way that Wapak is playing basketball. Defiance is struggling right now. I think that is an easy upset right there for Wapak.
Okay, so then, Shawnee, they defeated Defiance in overtime in the regular season. Defiance was up 7
Turn
with
that
under a minute.
season around, really.
Yeah, so you're saying Defiance isn't that same Defiance team.
I don't think so.
I think. Look, anybody can get beat on any night. We all know that.
Absolutely. That's why we're here, right?
I think that was a game that Shawnee went in not as well prepared for as they should have been. I don't think that if you catch Shawnee on their best night and Defiance on their best night, Shawnee walks through that one.
But it's only one game.
But that's why I said you have to play. So that's why I'm saying I don't think that if you're just looking at it on paper, I don't think that Walpock beating Defiance translates into Walpock giving Shawnee an issue. I just don't.
Here, the winning team goes, we're going to do this again. The losing team goes in the locker room and says, okay, let's look at video, let's look at stat numbers. What can we do different to give ourselves a chance? So whoever's going to play Shawnee knows what they're going to play and what they're going to see. Shawnee's not quite sure what they might see from their opponents.
Yeah, that's where I differ with some, because I think Defiance looks out there and sees in the horizon, we got a shot.
Yeah.
We got a shot to go after Shawnee. Mm-hmm. And I think that puts them in the championship game with Shawnee, just my opinion.
I just wonder, how does Defiance score their baskets? They're limited offensively, and it's tough to win in the tournament when you're going against teams that can score baskets, right? So even if they do make it to Shawnee's got so many answers offensively, right? And the thing that people forget about Shawnee defensively, they've held 4 of their last 10 opponents to under 40 points. How do you complete a pass against 6'7" guys with giant arms, right? They're so
Miles,
good.
They have one of your favorite defensive players, Tamola Ojo, right?
Yeah.
Ojo, I love Ojo.
I know you do.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Miles, year ago, I heard several years ago, Denny Crum speak at a clinic, Louisville coach and all that.
Yeah.
And the guy ahead of him drew up his own offense. And Denny Crum took that same bracket sheet and went giant X's and said, okay, these are my guys, now run that. And that's what you see with Shawnee. The stuff you typically run because of their length, you can't expect to run that with success.
Yeah, and it's scary when you watch Shawnee when they go to the bench and they bring in Ojo. He's 6'4" and athletic.
He's so good, too. And last point about Mark Triple I wanted to add, they earlier in the year, it was this guy has the ball, he's got to score, right? This guy has the ball, he needs to score. They weren't really sharing the basketball. Not the case nowadays. They share the basketball so well, and they take such joy in another guy getting a basket.
It was like separate ingredients, and now they're all mixed together.
Well, and I think it gets lost in this area with them, but because we all know what Lima Senior can do in transition. But I'm telling you, I will put that Shawnee transition game up against any other here in the state.
Talked about it. We had them. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because the two Berkeys can rebound and lead the break, they can eliminate the outlet pass.
Yep.
So the guy who would typically receive the outlet pass is already flying down the floor.
That's a great
so
point.
those two guys can bring it.
As soon as they grab the rebound, they take a ghillie step and they're at half court. Right? It's just unbelievable.
That's the outlet pass, the rebound.
All right, guys, let's go to the Northwest 1 sectional. Another WBL tournament to speak. Let me get down the brackets here. Van Wert will take on Kenton. Garrett Seawright, Dave Bowen on the call for that one. Belleville Clear Fork will take on Ontario. The winner of Van Wert Kenton will play Elida. And then Lima Bath takes on St. Mary's. And the winner of Belleville Clear Fork, Ontario takes on Upper Sandusky, and then Shelby and Ottawa Glandorf in the bottom bracket. Now, guys, I want to tell you something. I had a WBL coach who will remain nameless said to me, Danny, he said, most of the schools have been beaten up on OG all year. And he said, I'm pretty sure they're going to walk out of that sectional. and he was dead serious. And he said, they're playing that good right now. Your thoughts on Ottawa Glandorf getting out of there?
Well, they have a go-to guy now, right? Not just Tomazos, who was kind of reluctant earlier in the year of not wanting to shoot the basketball. He steps forward now, but big bad Brody Fortman, he's a guy that's 6'4". He's going to be a monster moving forward. They have two guys that look to score now offensively. Big deal, but the key for them, if you go back and you schedule all their wins and you bracket it and you go through all the stats, you want to know what the key is? Rolls-Royce Ellerbrock. When he hits 2 or 3 threes in that offense, they win games. When he is cold from behind the arc, they really struggle offensively. So the key for them is getting Ellerbrock going. They played Upper Sandusky in their Winter Classic, a game you and I did. That Upper Sandusky team's fantastic.
14 win
team. Yeah, they were really good. They made no big deal. They rolled right through them.
Lima Bath and St. Mary's play. That will be Mark Shine, Darn Evergo on the call on that one. Lima Bath, I went out to Allen East last week. they looked really, really impressive. They got 3 scores now, and they've talked about that all year long.
Well, I think, we've all had a chance to see Bath, and I know, Mark, I'm sure with having that game, you've got a lot more insight into this matchup, but this is a Bath team that's ahead of schedule, right? Coach White took this team over. The program wasn't in great shape. I don't think really anybody expected much out of them. Being the 4 seed here, going up against a St. Mary's team that has struggled all year, first-year head coach over there, they're trying to rebuild that program. This is a Bath team that I'll tell you what, a tournament win is going to go a long way with that program.
Sure.
Just a month ago, Bath won the game over St. Mary's 63-40. Foster had 19 and Markley had 22. Those 41 points. That's the guys who typically score for them. When you add the third guy in, probably Daniel Cole lately, who's been scoring for them, then that makes them even more dangerous. Yeah, I think Bath would win this opening game. St. Mary's has struggled a lot lately. The game is at Bath. I think a lot of things point towards a Bath victory. Not that upsets occur, of course. Then you're looking at an Elida team that has beaten them twice. Both of them low-scoring games because Elida defends so very, very well. But we've all talked about, and coaches talk about, you can't beat a team 3 times or how hard it is. And all that. Right. So we're looking at an Elida team with those 2 dynamic guards and a big guy inside, and I think Elida's playing really well right now, too.
Dave, you live over on the West Coast there. Van Wert plays Kenton. I think we all agree that Van Wert should or will win that game. And then it gets kind of dicey, fellas, because that Elida-Van Wert matchup, I think, is going to be a fantastic game. Look, Jeremy Best has got a bunch of kids that don't know what they shouldn't know, right? He's got freshmen. He's got freshmen and sophomore, and the Welch kid's a sophomore, and he's got 2 outstanding freshmen. Elida, look, very, very talented. Guards can be a little sporadic at times, very athletic. I think that's a matchup.
Those guards, even when they're sporadic, they lock you down.
Oh, yeah.
They never take a night off defensively. Yeah.
I really liked Van Wert. I went to Van Wert's practice today. I just know what Coach Best is doing with these kids and how they're going to be ready. You talk about OG in the sense that those players, they've been to state. They know what it's about. Well, Coach Best knows what it's about. He's not looking at this bracket and thinking, well, I'm back into coaching, I'm a head coach. No, he knows what he needs to do to have this team ready to go. Van Wert lost to Elida on January 3rd, 49-44. And they're going to break that down, and they're going to dig in. And I think this is one of the premier sectional final games in any bracket, Elida-Van Wert. I think it's going to be a great game. And I've got Van Wert coming out of it. I've got Van Wert playing OG, and I got Van Wert winning a district championship.
Wow. Now, Dave, I had Van Wert and Elida earlier in the year, okay? And when they tried to get Zach Crummy on the low block against Parker Krim, Parker Krim did a really nice job that night. Now, when Crummy caught the ball at the free throw line squaring up, he was able to beat Parker Krim off the dribble for some buckets. I think that might be something that they look back at that film and say, this is what we need to do moving forward.
And you've got to check Parker out when he shoots it, and Zach Crummey's got the body to check him out a little bit. Maybe.
Such a great rebounder.
I know he is, but if you can get in position, maybe you can draw a couple push fouls over the back.
So I don't disagree with you as far as Van Wert and that talent of those young players. It's just different come tournament time with these guys. They do know the mentality. And I think the worst thing that could have happened for Van Wert is Elida losing to Bluffton. Bluffton beats Elida. It kind of reset some things because they had gone on a nice run. Things had been going really well for Elida since that rough start to begin the season. It's a great opportunity for Coach Howard to have his guys in and have a real conversation about, hey, we can lose games. You guys just saw that. That was a game that could have gone either way. It was back and forth. Bluffton, it was a huge win for Bluffton because I think they finally kind of showed to themselves that we can close these games out. But Coach Howard can really use this as a stepping stone and be like, hey.
Proverbial wake-up call.
Late season losses are not the worst thing in the world, especially when they're non-conference.
Right, if they don't cost you
and they don't cost a seed or anything like that. They're not the worst things in the world. And I think that can be a catalyst for an Elida team that has a lot of really good pieces. Marcus Hill's underrated. He's able to take a lot of pressure off of Zori Island and Amari Wash and what they do offensively. Parker Krim. The biggest thing with Parker Krim is he's continuing to be a work in progress underneath. There are some nights he looks really good, but his strength, he just takes
the strongest Danny.
He just takes the basketball away from people at times. You have to always be aware of where he's at. I like Elida. I think Elida is going to go through this one. I think they're going to meet up with Bath. I think they end up winning that one. I think you potentially got. I'm a little leery about OG. I saw that OG Shawnee game. OG. ironically enough, they really struggle holding on to the basketball when they have pressure, which is something that I find ironic considering the fact that that's what they see
do
in practice every day. Because that's what the defense they run. You would think that would be a strength of theirs, but that Shawnee game, they were throwing the ball all over. Now, you've seen OG way more than I have.
7 times.
But I was really shocked with how much they were throwing the ball all over the place.
I was too, until I had the very next night when I had Shawnee against Wayne Trace, and they did the exact same thing to Wayne Trace, right? So that's just Shawnee, right? They're going to do that to all kinds of people. So, I mean, that is one of the top teams in the area. You're going to turn the ball over against that length and that pressure that Shawnee puts on you. If Van Wert does pull an upset, which would be, right? We all agree if they beat Elida, be an upset. Griffin McCracken, he's going to be a guy that's going to step forward for them. 44% from behind the arc this year, just doesn't get enough shots. But if they pull that upset, I think he's going to be a big part of it. And congratulations, Parker Krim picked up his first Big 12 offer this week.
Let me get this straight, and then I want to get your opinion on something, Mark. What you're saying, and I'm not discounting that, is Van Wert's going to beat 4 WBL schools to win a district title.
Somebody's going to have to.
I looked at that. Right? Like, wow, that is something. I just want to get Mark's thought. I want to get the OG's thoughts.
My OG thought was they're going to Shelby. We've kind of lost track of how this is going to begin for OG. They have to go to Shelby and win a game. So I looked at Shelby, and I looked at their record. They're only 7-4 at home. It's not like they have some great home court advantage where OG can't win. OG will have to play defense because that's how they live now. They have to defend very, very well, keep the score in the 40s, low 50s. If they're able to do that, I see them getting a win there, and I think they could well go into a district final situation if they can get by Shelby.
They're gonna avenge the football loss back in the fall against Shelby against the Whippets.
Yeah, isn't that something how life is different at OG and Shelby from a year ago?
Yes.
I just think a Bath Van Wert matchup would be great.
And that was a 43-41 game back on December 13th.
All right, guys, let's take a look at the Northwest 4 bracket. I will give those to you. Convoy Crestview School, you're very familiar with, Dave. They take on Lincoln View. Rivalry game. What are we doing here? Oh, my goodness. That will be Patrick Kamler on the call for that one, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Columbus Grove, they'll play Riverdale. LCC, Lima Central Catholic, plays Ada. Myself and Miles Holliday will be on the call for that one. And
you get to work with me?
I do.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Well, somebody's got to carry you. It'll be Bluffton and Wayne Trace in the nightcap on that one, guys. Dave, any trepidations about Crestview, Lincoln View, the rivalry game here? Kids getting excited for this one?
Well, that's the piece. It is a rivalry game, but the fact that they just played last Friday. And Crestview wins by 32. As you're watching that game, you're thinking, what's Coach Hammond's going to do from Lincoln View? What can he do differently? And right now, I just think Crestview physically is bigger, stronger, a little faster than the Lancers are right now. So I've got Crestview winning that game. I just think, and Miles and I talked about this with Crestview, they had 4 big games down the stretch. They had LCC, Coldwater, Lincoln View, St. John's, and I said, well, that gets you ready for tournament. And Miles, you said...
or it ruins you for the tournament.
Exactly. And after Crestview loses that first game to LCC, I'm like, they could go 1-3 very easily. Well, they turn around, they beat Coldwater, then they beat Lincoln View in the rivalry game, and on paper they should have. And I was talking to folks before that game. I was part of a team that on paper should have beat Lincoln View back in 1983, and we got beat.
Wow.
And we played them twice a year, regular season. We beat them the second time by 30. So it should have been that way the first game, but it wasn't because you got to play the game. And then Crestview has that big win Saturday night against St. John's. So I like Crestview. I like Crestview Grove as far as Grove coming back and really wanting to show Crestview who they played back in before Christmas. That's not who we are. Yeah, December 20th. That's not who we are. Crestview won 63-41 that night.
Miles, I look at these sectional championships, and we talked about the WBL sectional. Look at the possibility of a Crestview Grove and the bottom bracket, Lima Central Catholic Bluffton. If it works out the way I think it is, Those are incredible games to be part of.
Yeah, we talked about this on the radio last week, Danny. This bracket is just a nightmare for everybody, right? And nobody likes this bracket. Even when you look at Bluffton, is there a more hard luck team throughout the year than Bluffton?
No.
I mean, I saw them twice. I'm impressed with them. Coach Bowen does a great job.
Sure
they have
does.
nice pieces. They got a guy that can score. They got size. They got shooters. I mean, you're like, well, how'd they lose? But then you look at it all. You put 20 points on their schedule. They're a much different team, right? They spread those out, and they only have 1 or 2 losses. I like Bluffton. They take care of the basketball. Coach Boblet does a great job of changing defenses. You don't know what you're going to get against them. They got a guy that can shoot it. They got Merrick Donaldson who can score, or 1,000-point scorer. They got Summers inside, and you know what you're going to get every single night from them. LCC loved their talent, absolutely loved their talent, but do they take care of the basketball every single time they play? No, they don't.
Right.
So that tells me I have to go with Bluffton because they value the basketball more than LCC. So I have Bluffton and Crestview matching up.
Nate, look at this Columbus Grove Connor Coles. What a job he did this year. You want to talk about a guy that navigated some rough seas. He didn't get started till like last week.
Yeah, exactly.
From the football
Exactly.
season, and look what they're doing. Incredible job.
Yeah, and obviously everybody knows the big win that Columbus Grove had this year with knocking off Spencerville earlier this season. Probably about a month ago now at this point. It's a huge win for them. It's a very talented team. They play great defense. They're well coached. Listen, when you look at this, to me, this is the toughest top to bottom bracket.
Sure is.
In any division. And we already talked about the winner of this one. It gets no easier because then they have to go play an undefeated Patrick Henry team, most likely. And then I even looked, and I forget who the potential matchup, but it was going to be it was either a 17-1 team or a 17-1 team. The path is no simpler. This will be the toughest road to UD that any team is going to face. I like Crestview. I think it's a good team. I really do. I think Crestview, Columbus Grove, LCC, Bluffton are going to be your matchups. I think Columbus Grove knocks off Crestview, though. I'm picking the.
Did he just kick you under the table?
Easy. Did we pat Dave down? No sharp objects, right?
I like that defense. We've talked about it. When you get into this, the whole beating a team twice and all those things. It is what it is. But this is tournament. But I do think that a Columbus Grove team in the middle of December is a very different Columbus Grove team than the end of February, early March. It just is.
Basing are a much different player now.
Exactly.
They're athletic, that's for sure.
Exactly.
They're really athletic.
I like that team. I think they pulled the upset there. And then I'm with you, Miles. I like Bluffton. We just got done talking about Elida and how a late season loss can be a good thing and get you refocused. But I think that win for Bluffton showed them, of all these hard luck losses that they've had, all these close losses, we can close a team out.
Yes.
We can beat a team and we can win a big game. And I think that can be the catalyst for them. I have them moving on. I then have them beating Columbus Grove.
You have them beating Columbus Grove.
I think they win the district.
There's a little bit of a mental block there.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a big rivalry game. Yeah. There's a lot there. Wow. But I really do think
the first shot fired.
I really do think that win against. I like now. There is, the depth of Bluffton is going to be challenged. They're going to be missing a big piece potentially through that tournament run, coming off of the bench. However, I like what they can do. I like Summers. I think Summers is underrated for a big guy. He can do a lot of things. When in the Bluffton Spencerville game, that game that came down to it, Will Sensabaugh hits that 3-pointer.
Yes.
The reason, though, that Bluffton was able to do what they did, especially in the first half, was because Carter Orr had to get pulled out because Blake Summers opened that game with a 3-pointer. Yeah. So immediately it's like, well, we can't just let Blake Summers sit behind a 3-point line as Carter Orr kind of tries to fill the middle, because he can knock those shots down. He can stretch the floor for you. He can create space. Ginther's not afraid to go in and post guys up on the inside. They got a lot of nice pieces. I think this Bluffton team's going to go on a nice run here. I think Coach Boblet will have them ready. I think they win the district.
So Nate brought up that they're going to have some depth issues, right, with some injuries, right? I got some breaking news. They have gone back at Bluffton, and they determined that Evan Skilleter still has eligibility. Evan Skiller is going to dress for Bluffton.
The professor dropping
He is
dimes.
dressing.
Mark, let's look at this matchup, Lima Central Catholic and Ada. The reason I bring that up is Chris Souter in his second stint with the Bulldogs. Now, we all know that in his first stint, he took them to the state semifinals. Right. He goes to Columbus Grove. He takes them to the state finals. And in his first year back in his second stint at Ada, he got them winning 15 games in a brand new conference. This cat can coach. LCC is going to have to play really well.
I would agree. I think LCC will have to play really, really well. I'm concerned. I saw Azab Burton go down with an ankle injury the other night. I saw Jeff Williams limping a little bit, but he managed to finish the game against Lima Senior. I saw Parker score a bunch of points, though. That was a real positive. Of course, Jordan Pretty. I'm concerned with who they're going to play in the middle. I didn't see much out of Don McKee or Peaster the other night, so I'm concerned who LCC is going to play in the middle. Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is a pretty interesting matchup to start out with Ada. You better not come up at a halfway effort in that particular game against Ada.
Well, Mark, you know that Ada roster, and I had them Saturday night. Yeah. Miles and I have got them Friday night. It's full of underclassmen.
Sure.
This isn't their year. Like, next year is their year, and they're a 15-win team, and they took a tough loss Saturday night, don't get me wrong, but it's still a really well-coached team.
It is. If you want to go back up to the top for just a second, because I've seen Columbus Grove, and I really like Columbus Grove. I like how hard they play and how they treat every single possession like it's a big deal.
Here we go.
No, really. I'm going to go the other way because here's why. Because they have played 22 basketball games where they had to be on the edge every single game. They're playing in 2 leagues. They're trying to win 2 leagues, one of which they were able to do so because they tied the top of the championship with Spencerville. They're second at PCL, but every game has been a big deal for them. And it's not a team that just rolls the ball out and one guy gets you 30.
Correct.
And the rest of the guys, can kind of fill it. They all have to play well offensively and defensively, stay out of foul trouble, and compete. I just wonder if they got enough in the tank. If they do, I really like how they play. Yeah. Okay, I like how hard they play, hard they compete. And if you go to Bluffton, I saw Bluffton Elida, and Bluffton was on kind of that spell where they're losing games close, and they're up 6 on Elida at halftime, and Elida comes out and just jumps on them in the third quarter. And they go up 6. And I'm thinking, okay, this is time for Bluffton to fold. But they didn't. They turned it around. They beat Elida on their home court after being kind of giving up a lead and getting it back again. I was really impressed by how Bluffton played. I think they're going to be very dangerous in the tournament right now because you have a team a little bit who's going, you know what, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's time for us to show the type of season we could have had by having a great tournament.
Guys, let's go to the Northwest 5 sectional bracket. We'll take a look at these games. We'll start up top with Spencerville takes on Lima Perry. Then Parkway plays Coldwater. Marion Local and Allen East in that one. Mark Shine, Jack McGuire on the call for that one. And St. Henry and New Bremen. Guys, I'm just going to throw this out there. No disrespect to the other teams, but boy, wouldn't a Spencerville Marion Local rematch be something fun to watch. But you know what? You look at Coldwater right there in the weights. Allen East is capable. They've got some nice things. New Bremen's still capable. This is a tough sectional.
Yeah, we had the Sensaballs on. Coach Sensaballs was in here, and I said to him, I'm not sure who he upset at the OHSAA, but he should really figure it out and apologize. They finally send them south, and it only seems to get worse for him at this point. We talked about how difficult the last district was top to bottom, but the top 3 spots in this one, maybe it's on par with any other one as well. If you're Coldwater, too, how about that decision to make? Who are we going to go after? Are we going to go after Spencerville? Are we going to go after Marion? Or are we going to go after Marion Local? What a tough choice that they had to make.
Can I interject real quick, Nate? Because I had Coldwater Crestview Saturday night before the draw on Sunday, and I talked to Coach Fisher. At halftime of the JV game, we had an opportunity to break it down a little bit, and he goes, yeah, my kids, they want Marion Local. I think I'm going to go in Marion Local's bracket. That's who they want. Then I see the bracket, and he's in Spencerville's bracket, and that's after Crestview beat them, which I liken Crestview more to a Spencerville team than a Marion Local team. And then he jumps in Spencerville's bracket. And I know he had just gotten beat by Marion Local as well, but he said, my kids, they want to go against Marion Local again, but he went otherwise
Cooler
when he put it
prevailed.
on paper. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I can tell you, regardless of how this stuff all shakes out, the district final here should be tremendous.
Incredible.
I mean, it should be
maybe the best.
Yeah, I mean, the district final here is set up to look
Sure
one
is.
of two ways, and no matter how that works out,
Think it'll be a sellout?
Yeah, it's gonna be a must see. I like Spencer. I think everybody likes Spencer. I mean, we can talk all day about everything good that the Sensaballs are doing. Will Sensaball has just been otherworldly here lately. Carter Orr, what he does for them on the inside. Owen Sensaball is that steady hand for them, right? You know, he doesn't have to lead them in scoring every single night, but he always seems to be doing the little things, and you know he can take the big shot when he needs it. He's not afraid to attack on the inside. I like them. I think they get by Coldwater. I think that we're going to see that rematch in Marion Local. And Mark, you and I talked about it after that Spencerville Marion Local game. That game got played. Whatever your opinion on that game getting played after the draw, it is what it is. That game got played. And I know Coach Sensabaugh. I asked Coach Sensabaugh about that game when we had him here, you know, as far as, you know, what is the strategy going into that game, you know, without getting into specifics, but do you just play? Do you hold things back? And, you know, he gave coach speak, you know, oh, no, we go in, we play every game, and we want – look, there's no way that you went into that game and showed your hand. This is not going to be the same matchup if these two meet in that district final.
I said they shouldn't have played it. I said,
I agreed. But
Marion
it's not going
Marion
to be
Local needed the money. They haven't had enough people.
that gate is something that's hard to turn down, that's for sure. But this should be a great matchup, and I can't wait to see if this is what the district final ends up being. That first game, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. It's going to be different for both teams. You know, I think maybe it helps Spencerville out more than Marion Local in the sense that Spencerville saw some things that Marion Local, I'm sure, would like to try to exploit the second time. But it should be a fantastic game.
Well, let's start with this. Coldwater only beat Parkway by 5 in the regular season. Now, Coldwater's favored, and well should be. I think they are the better basketball team. But it was a close game, typical MAC, low-scoring game. I saw Marion Local and Spencerville. I did that game. And Marion Local's physicality, their size and strength, was a huge factor. And Coldwater has those type of players.
Yes.
Mason Welch is a strong physical player. Owen Kunk is a strong physical player. Balin Blockberger is a 6'4" guard who has a physicality to him. I think that Spencerville-Coldwater game is a pick-em game.
Yes.
I wouldn't begin to try to decide who's going to win that particular game on what I've seen from both teams right now. Okay? You go down to the bottom bracket, I think Marion Local, they're probably going to come out of there. They got to beat maybe St. Henry for the third time, or they got to be playing a New Bremen team that's really good defensively. But I think Marion Local is playing pretty well right now. And you get to that final game, okay, if it's Spencerville showed nothing. They played straight up man-to-man. They didn't do anything different defensively. I think they ran one offensive set. You know, they did not show what the things that they can do from Spencerville. But Coldwater Marion Local could be a really good game, too. I think those three teams are all really, really good, and I think any of those three could come out and move on.
Mark, you don't think there's any chance St. Henry New Bremen knocking off Local just because they know them, they've played them before?
They could, and, you know, Marion Local had beat St. Henry bad twice.
Yeah.
And did they come out overconfident? Did they come out a little bit? Well, Dan Everman's playing again, too. You know, he didn't play much for the first part of the year because he had knee injuries. He gives them a second guard out front. There are other guards, Mesher and Holman.
I think Mesher's fantastic.
Oh, my goodness. They're just big, physical, strong guards. I think it's any of those three teams I think can go on to the regional.
Yeah. It's always tough to bet against Marion Local on anything, isn't it?
Sure is.
Right. It sure is. But I will caution you on this one thing. Danny and I saw Allen East early in the year.
Okay.
Always terrifies me when guys have shooters that can get high, and Allen East is going to let it fly behind the arc. They have one of those nights. Next thing you know, you're looking at the scoreboard. How are these guys staying with us? They hit another three, and then they're in front of you, and then you really start panicking. So just caution you a little bit on Allen East.
I've had Allen East a couple times this year, and don't laugh at me, guy. That's better than their record indicates. And again, Coach Belcher's done a great job over there this year, first year in the system, but they've got a lot of really good pieces to that program.
Helser has improved every time I see him. He is becoming a quality interior player.
I don't think they've played their best game yet.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Now, I want to go back to Spencerville, though, right? I think if they don't forget about Carter Orr, they're really tough to beat.
Yeah.
when they forget to give the ball to Carter Orr, they're two-dimensional, right? Just defensive balls, and you can figure out how to stop them. When they give the ball to Carter Orr, they're a really tough team to beat. I like Coldwater, too. I'm with Mark on that one. That is going to be a pick-em game, but I think whoever comes out of that one is going to win it because I like the fact that you're playing poker, but you never showed anything that's in your hand, right? I like going into that. Coach Sensabaugh, great basketball coach. It makes you wonder, though. He co-champs, right, with Columbus Grove? Why wasn't Coach Coles co-coach of the year?
That's for next week's show.
Yeah, we've discussed that already.
Real quick before we move on with it, though, you talked about Spencerville not forgetting about Carter Orr.
Yeah.
We just talked about the Spencerville-Bluffton game and how Bluffton was able to pull Carter Orr away because of Blake Summers.
Yes.
And that really affected that game and allowed Bluffton to stay in that one and really do some things on the inside. Well, what does Marion Local do? Right?
Yeah.
Austin Niekamp.
Austin Niekamp
Yeah.
is
Good
going to
point.
play away from the basket.
Great point.
Carter Orr is going to have to go with him unless they adjust some things. But if Carter Orr is following Austin Niekamp around, Carter Orr is not going to be on the inside.
Well,
and it's going to change things on the inside.
The other part of that is somebody got Austin Niekamp in the weight room.
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
Because that
Yeah.
young man has completely changed
He's been fantastic.
physically from what he was a year ago. He can post up now, too, if they want him down there.
And again, I know that's a pick'em game, Spencerville Coldwater. I love Coach Sensabaugh, Northwest Conference team, but we haven't talked about Coldwater. They know how to win in tournament, going back to the fall.
Oh, yeah, great point.
And you look at Marion Local guys, and I thought Jack Kanapke was a great player last year, but that floor is spread out.
It opened
more.
it up.
It really opened it up. Austin Niecamp's really playing good basketball.
Stretch five. We
so
talk
listen-
about stretch fours. He's a stretch five.
This is a bracket show, okay? And all of us seem to be all over the map in a bunch of pick'em games in this bracket. Let's go, Danny. Who's winning? Who's coming out of the district?
Spencerville.
Miles.
I'm going to go with Marion Local.
I'm Spencerville. What about you, Mark?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't have a feel because there's a scenario where any of those three teams can win the district.
We'll give you a pass because you've been here the longest. How about you, Dave?
Kirk got a molar, Marion Local.
Here's
See,
the
that's
thing.
what I'm saying. We're all over the place with
here's
this
the
one.
thing you got to look at. Poor Kevin Sensabaugh and Spencerville. The last 2 years they had to go through OG.
Yeah.
Now they got to go through Marion Local.
That's
to
what
get
I
a
mean.
district title.
I don't know who he upset, but he needs to make that relationship right.
All right, guys, let's go to Northwest 2 sectional, and it's a Putnam County League tournament over this way. Continental squares off with Quarry Rawson. The winner plays Miller City. Ottoville takes on Leipzig. Kalida plays Holgate, and Fort Jennings takes on Pandora Gilboa. Dave, Coach Lee at Pandora Gilboa has seen just about everything, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I mean, he is a wise old soul. I watched him do senior night one time. You know, you have senior night and everything. It was a WSN game. I think we did that a few years ago, Mark. And he goes out there and he talks about every player, every cheerleader who's a senior, every manager who's a senior, no note cards or anything. And this is before his game.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're locked into your game and everything. And then Coach Lee just does an outstanding job with that program. He was great at Minster as well, matched up against him. But this bracket, as you look at it, as you said, Putnam County League schools, I really like Kalida. I like what Coach Stetscholde has done this year.
Yeah.
And his varsity assistant, Kevin Stetscholde, been fortunate to go golfing with those guys. They can both hit it about 400 yards, and I need to move up to the senior tees. That's all I can say about that right away. And Miles is thinking about something. I can see it on his face. I don't know.
I know exactly what he was thinking. He's not
Lady
even
tees
allowed
for
to
Dave.
mention it. He's not allowed to mention it.
But anyway, I like Kalida overall. I do like Fort Jennings. They've had an outstanding year as well. Swick, the player of the year in the Putnam County League. So I think you're going to have Kalida, Fort Jennings at the bottom. I think you're going to have Miller City and Ottoville. You know, Miller City just really had a great start to the year, and they are 16-6 overall. But man, at the beginning of the year, they beat Crestview early on and had some great wins. I see Miller City. I still see Ottoville coming out of there, even though Landon Horseman's no longer able to play.
Mark, the Miller City Wildcats, they've got a little bit of everything. They got some size, they've got some shooters, some good guards.
My concern with them is a little bit what Dave was bringing up. They're just 2-3 in the month of February.
Yeah.
Things have kind of gotten
It's a
away
short
from
month.
them. Well, but things have kind of gotten away from them a little bit recently. And I'm curious if they can get it pulled back together for the tournament. Because in this tournament, it's a little bit. I've been a part of the Western Buckeye League tournament we used to have down here in Lima Senior, and you know, when you have that, you can throw the records out. I mean, you just bring those teams in, all these communities that have great backing and great following. My initial thought was Ottoville would win this thing. They lost to Miller City by 5 at Miller City during the regular season. I think Ottoville's playing really well right now. I was going to go with Ottoville, but again, it's Putnam County League basketball, and you have a hot night, and you win, and the other guys are playing baseball on Monday.
I kind of had the same thoughts as you, Mark. You know, Miller City, they're not playing great right now. I mean, I still think that they will get past. I think Corey Rawson wins that play-in game. I think Miller City gets past them without too many issues. Then you got Miller City, Ottoville. They're playing really good. You know, obviously losing Horseman is that's a hit, and you know, we're going to have to see how they adjust. Kalida somehow the 3 seed, even though, you know, they're the PCL champs.
Exactly.
Coming out of there. Fort Jennings, I saw them against Pandora. That Fort Jennings-Pandora game is actually going to be a replay or a rematch of senior night. So I actually saw that senior night. Exactly what you're talking about. Coach Lee still doing it, still out on the floor.
Impressive. Talking
about all of his kids. It took me off guard because, you know, I'm getting ready for the game, and all of a sudden I hear the coach. I'm like, wait, what?
Yes.
And you look down, and there's the head coach doing senior night activities. It was impressive. But that Pandora team, they don't hold on to the basketball very well. They turn it over a lot. Fort Jennings really kind of handled them without too many issues. I think that same thing happens. Kalida I like, and I think with Horseman I would have taken Ottoville coming out of there. Without him, I think it's going to be Kalida.
Yep. Yeah, Miles, back in my day, Holgate, boy, when you played them, you were going to either lose 18 to 12.
Yes,
back in the day.
I don't know that they ever thought about taking a shot. They drove me crazy when we'd play them in the districts and the regionals. Just drive you nuts. But I don't think Kalida's got any problems with Holgate this year.
So back when TV26, WNHO TV26, we did a game at Tenora, and Paul Wayne was the first year as the head coach right there.
Hold the ball.
And it was them against Hicksville. And we're like, man, this is going to be a great matchup. 22-18. Oh,
he did what he had to do to win, I guess.
Yeah, that was Paul Wayne, right? He's like, if we don't have to shoot,
I remember back in the day, Vince Koza used to be on the radio, and he used to talk about shot clock. We need a shot clock. We need a shot clock for that kind of thing.
Paul Wayne, right? So taking a look at the brackets, really tough to ever go against Coach Utendorf at Ottoville, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Keith is great.
I love
that, right? I think they're going to move on at the top part. I like Mike Lee at Pandora Gilboa, but they don't have scoring this year. They really don't. It's so tough. So you got to go with Kalida and the best name in all the tournament, Bubba Smith, right? Bubba Smith, I love that kid. He was a great guard, right? I have Kalida against Ottoville in the final there.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's go to Northwest 3. Woo! This is going to be a dandy if you like high-flying teams. Let me go through the brackets. New Knoxville takes on Waynesville Goshen. The winner gets Delphos St. John's. I know you guys have heard of them. They had a pretty good season this year. Upper Saddle Valley and Lima Temple Christian. Guys, I think that's going to be a really good game. That was a close game earlier this year. Temple Christian playing good basketball right now. Minster takes on Hardin Northern, and Ridgemont takes on Delphos Jefferson. Guys, this is as good a Ridgemont team as they've had in a long time. I like them getting by Jefferson. Now, I don't think they can get by Minster, but I do like them, getting to the next round.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think Ridgemont has had an underrated season. They've played really well. I've seen them a couple of different times. Pretty good team. They play up-tempo, fast-paced. They got some big bodies. Delphos Jefferson's been playing better.
Yes,
but
they can score.
Yeah, but I still don't. I don't think that they. I don't think they knock off Ridgemont. I think Ridgemont will win this one.
Really,
I do. But when you look at the whole bracket as a whole, ultimately, I don't know that there's any other matchup that anybody really thinks other than Delphos St. John's Minster in that district final.
Yeah.
Well, I would say this: if Carter Agner decides he's going to go off for 30. Jefferson's got a good chance.
I agree.
He is the type of guy, you talk about streak shooters and streak scorers. When he gets on a roll, he's as good as anybody around offensively. But I do think Ridgemont should be the favorite in that particular game. And then we start talking about, what happens with Minster and DSJ. Okay, DSJ is the favorite. I got that. But there's a scenario where Minster wins, okay? And I'll tell you why.
I don't disagree with that.
I got a lot of reasons behind it. I think Minster is tired of being second banana in this league. They were in football. They lost the state championship football game to Marion Local in the regional finals.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
And they've been I just think that their guys are competitive. Broken Steffi can play. Cole Albers can play. Cole Richards can play. Cole McClure can play. They got guys, and I just think they're getting to the point where they're going, you know what? It's about time for us to take one more step forward this year. Do I think Delphos St. John's wins? I would pick them. But I think there's a scenario where Minster wins that game, too.
You look at that matchup and you think about the guards that Minster's has, and the problem that St. John's has had this year at times has been when guards close out on their shooters and get high hands up and move their feet, and then you've got a big man in the middle who can stop the dribble drive. You're not far off. I'm not saying you're going to lose, St. John's. But
and you sing a song for him.
Well, and I agree with you. I think, though, the thing that's going on with St. John's is kind of the same thing that you're talking about with Minster, where Minster feels like their second fiddle and they want to show. But yeah, remember, this Delphos St. John's thing feels like they were cheated last year in that tournament run due to the injury to Cam Elwer.
Yeah.
And that they feel like they have some things that they need to prove. And I think that little extra motivation for them as well, knowing that last year didn't really go the way that they felt like it should once they hit the tournament.
Good point.
Is there a better bracket with more look at the scores. So Cam Elwer at St. John's, Maddox Underwood at Upper Saddle Valley, Derek Schultz at Temple Christian, Brogan Steffi at Minster, and we can just get the Stuck kid at Ridgemont and Agner at Jefferson. He's going on and on and on. There's a ton of really good basketball players in this bracket.
Yeah.
I kind of feel a little bit bad for Maddox Underwood, tremendous player at USV, right?
Yeah.
Got his season in football ended by Delphos St. John's. Chances are his season's probably going to end when they match up against Delphos St. John's again in basketball. What a great player he's been for USV. It's going to be a little bit of a bitter taste for him unless they pull an upset right there. Now, Danny, I do have to ask, though, okay? I do see Waynesfield Goshen in this bracket, okay? Yeah. For job security purposes, do you want to go ahead and say that they're winning the district?
I thought you were going to say winning the first game.
That's what I thought you were saying.
The district.
Well, for my job security, I'll take him over New Knoxville. Go Tigers. Look, Brad Clum's done a great job. Look, fellas, Waynesfield Goshen has limited numbers. Now, I'm just going to tell you this, and it doesn't always equate to wins. Their junior highs are really good. Their 7th and 8th grade are really good. The 8th grade won the championship. The 7th grade was runner-up. So they've got kids coming. Right. Brad does a good job. He's a friend of mine. I really appreciate what he's doing. But no, they're not going to win the district.
That opening game will be really low scoring. New Knoxville's, they've been under 38 multiple times this year. Waynesfield's been under 49 in their last 6 games. They've lost all 6. It's going to be a low-scoring game probably.
And Mark, I like what you said about Minster and the competitiveness, senior-laden team. I had St. John's Minster back on December 13th, and I keep trying in my mind to see how Minster's going to make up 24 points. Yep. It was 73-49. Yeah, I know Minster's better. But
Brogan Steffi either didn't play or played.
He did not play.
Did not play that night.
Did not play. So that's a big piece.
It's a big piece.
Maybe not 25 I think St. John's is going to have to help him
Let's
a little
talk
bit.
a little bit about that St. John's team. You were there. How did Crestview pull off that win? I mean, as soon as we got that text from you, we're like, what?
I was shocked.
Where's Dave at? Is he telling us what's going on? Did he fall in his head? But because we had talked before the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said, what's the chances? And you go, we'll be competitive, but I just don't think we can get it done.
Correct.
Well, they did.
Correct. I think the first thing is, which Minster will bring to the table, is you got to be ready to go mano-a-mano. First loose ball in that Crestview St. John's game, there were 6 bodies on the floor, 3 from each team. And that set tone right away for me in my mindset, saying, okay, Crestview's here to play tonight.
That's big. That's big.
Minster's got to be the same way. They weren't there on the 13th of December because they had just gotten off the football field. The other thing is you have to limit Cam's penetration. And you got to get them in a position where, and I know Coach Elwer's going to fix this, but Crestview ran a 1-3-1 in the second half. And Cam was up top, and he passed the ball to the wing. He stood there. He was at the volleyball line. No.
Okay.
They put Hefner at the top.
Nice.
So the few times that Cam did penetrate off a reversal with the 1-3-1, he got by Hefner, but then there was Ren Sheets.
Did he play him in the middle or did they play him on the baseline?
Middle.
In the middle.
Okay. So I think what you're going to see Coach Elwer do is when Cam gives the ball up, he's going to move. He's going to go down to the baseline, go to a corner. You got to get him moving.
Absolutely.
Because once it came back to Cam, Crestview was right back in the original set, which Cam looked at and said, I can't get something to get this against this right
Triple
away.
through 5 guys.
Yeah. The other pieces, again, those complementary players for St. John's, they've been there all year long. They got into a deferment mentality down the stretch. And it was Andrew and Cam a little bit looking to shoot and everybody else looking to get the ball to them. Well, Crestview recognized that. And then it was just a really good, hard-fought basketball game both ways.
So if you're Coach Elwer, do you think about potentially, you saw the 1-3-1, you saw what it did to your team. Do you think about maybe having somebody else bring the ball up the floor and letting Cam play off?
Yes. Yes. If that defense is back there waiting on you, yes. Now, Crestview also was patient on offense. Lowers the number of possessions,
Absolutely.
makes them more critical when you do have it. The fourth quarter and the overtime, Crestview was very methodical on offense.
Well, it sounds like we all agree that it's going to be a Delphos St. John's Minster final.
Yes.
And let's do it, Nate. You called us out earlier.
And I think St. John's. I agree with Mark. I think that Minster will play with a chip on their shoulder. I just think that the St. John's team is. There's a map and a road being built, and all roads are going to lead to Delphos St. John's Rushi.
Got your quarter out, Mark? Flip it.
I would have to.
I love this.
No, I do think St. John's would be favored in the game.
Yeah.
But there's a scenario where Minster wins. Yeah. But, I do think St. John's
Miles?
I did with Diamond Dave. We did the Shawnee game. And if there was ever a game that you're like, this thing's over. It's over. Shawnee's getting the win. If there was ever that game, that was that night. But then you forget Cam Elwer, right? The guy is just tough as nails. He's that big moment guy. How do you ever bet against Cam Elwer? I will never, ever do it. They will find a way, somehow, some way, to win this district.
I think the phrase "you forget about Cam Elwer" has never been spoken until just now. I think that's the first time anyone has ever said that.
I didn't know if he was going to call you out on that.
Well, Danny, here's how I would end up that discussion. Delphos St. John's knows they can win the game. Minster has to come in saying, we got to have some things go our way to win the game.
Yeah.
And Nate, you mentioned earlier, was it Elida with the loss, right? Well, St. John's got this loss.
Yeah.
They're going to lock in, and everybody's going to take it to another level on that team.
It was still an overtime loss.
Yeah, it was a great game.
And Crestview had to have a lot of good things happen for them.
Yes.
Who you called it?
St. John's.
St. John's. I'm going to make it sort of unanimous. I'm going to go with St. John's, too. I think anytime you have the best player on the floor, and I believe Cam Elwer is the best player on the floor for that game. I heard a guy talking the other day, and he said that there was a scenario where Cam Elwer could possibly become the all-time leading scorer in the state of Ohio if he averages X amount of points and they get to an X game next year, which I think is just incredible.
I thought it was 34 points he had to average, and they had to make it to the state finals one of his years.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. Would we agree he's the best player in the area? That's not on the show sheet. There's a little wrinkle there.
Of all years that you have to pick,
right.
No, that's a terrible question.
That's a great question because everybody's watching.
Well, because even if you try to, sometimes when you have these conversations, like, well, best pure scorer or best, inside or shooter or 3-point. We have so many guys right now in this area that can do their all-around game is spectacular. I think I'm pulling a Mark Shine on that one. I don't know if you had to get all of the players in this area and you had to pick one, and there wasn't Division II offensive player or anything, and you had to. I don't know what criteria you'd be able to look at to tell the difference between these guys right now to pick one. I don't know. I don't know. It's a great question. I really don't.
I'll tell you. If you did a one-on-one tournament of the best players in the Lima Land area, okay, it would be a matchup between Cam Elwer and Jaquel Cotton, and Cam would beat him in the finals.
You really think?
I do.
Because I think then that means that you're saying that Will Sensabaugh would go down early. Sean Foster would go down early.
Willie Foster goes down early.
Willie Foster, who I hadn't seen Willie in a while until Saturday. People forget how much he has grown.
Bar none.
How
the
tall he has
most
gotten.
athletic player I've watched this year. I didn't say best player. I said the most athletic player I've seen this year.
I mean, To call a final for Cam Elwer and Jaquel Cotton that confident, I mean, you're on a different confidence level than I could get to here.
Are you wanting WSN to sponsor a one-on-one?
Yes, let's do it.
We've been trying to get the 2v2 all year.
Let's get it.
All right, guys, let's do it. The Stolly Superstar and Stolly Sensational Team of the Week. Stolly Insurance, a great sponsor for this portion of the program. Get out there and, enjoy Stolly Insurance. That's right. Get your insurance with Stolly Insurance because they're a great sponsor of this segment. Dave, your Stolly Superstar and your Sensational Team of the Week.
I usually stay away from them because you guys claim nepotism or whatever, but I'm going with my Knights. They had it out.
Look at the ball.
Just what a great weekend. We talked about it earlier. You have the rivalry game on Friday, and weird things can happen in a rivalry game, but Crestview set the tone right away. But Saturday night with what they did at Robert A. Arnson Gymnasium.
For people that watch WSN, I think you do a great job on your calls, Dave. Your JV call was
Thank you for that JV call.
You're getting better and better and
well,
better.
I appreciate that. Maybe someday I'll be ready for the big time. So.
Well, I mean, all you do is Crestview games. I mean, you're great at it.
And Tommy Hefner in that game. We talk about Ren Sheets over and over for Crestview, but Tommy Hefner has had a great year. He's the most improved player on that squad from last year to this year, and then he just had his best game and especially his best second half of his career. He took care of the basketball, and he was a leader out there on the floor.
Dave, you said something that really, really impressed me because you don't say it unless you really mean it. You said to me that you felt that was Doug Etzler's best win ever other than the state games.
And I told him that. I said, Coach, I think that was your best game. Marion Local, when they went to state.
Big game.
Yeah. But I think Marion Local made some poor decisions down the stretch, and we don't need to get into that. That helped Crestview out. All right? That helped Crestview out in that game. And that happens.
Dave says it, but we don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. I thought this was a game that neither team lost. Crestview won. And you have to coach that. And Doug did a great job playing man-to-man, boxing 1, triangle 2, 1-3-1. And Coach Elwer called some timeouts during that game where you typically wouldn't call a timeout. Josiah Stober and I both looked at each other. Which team called that? Real quick after out a dead ball situation, and it was St. John's. And I know why Coach Elwer. It wasn't like he got caught off guard. He just had to make his team aware of the scenario. And let's again with St. John's. Let's. They only start one senior. And those guys, sometimes we forget with Cam Elwer that he's got sophomores and juniors and a freshman around him.
Pretty good 8th grader coming up next year.
Pretty good 8th grader coming up. Yeah.
Mark, let's talk about your picks for the Stolly Superstar and the Stolly Sensational Team of the Week. If I haven't mentioned that, big thanks to Stolly Insurance. Come on out and get your insurance from Stolly.
Well, I had 3. I had 3 teams in my top 3 of the week. I decided to go with Lima Senior Spartans.
Good pick.
Yeah, they won 5 last week. They beat Dunbar, Scott, Perrysburg, Start, and Lima Central Catholic. I thought they played extremely well. They won by scoring a lot of points in 4 of those games, but they also beat Start, who wants to play slow and methodical. They beat them by 25, 60-35. So they've proven that they could play at different pace, and that was on the road, of course, up in the TCAL championship game. And my player of the week is Jaquel Cotton. His shooting style, he is just unbelievable right now. The ball doesn't touch the rim. And his range is just a couple of times I thought he should at least move into the right zip code, before he takes the next shot. He was so deep. Shots that some people go, he's closer to you, Nate, than he is to the basket. And you're on the radio the other night.
Mark,
his range is outstanding.
Do you ever wonder how a kid like that at 6'7", who shoots that well, how does he get out of the state of Ohio? Where's Bowling Green? Where's Toledo? Yeah. Where's OU? Where are these schools at?
Tardy.
They are tardy to the party. You're right. But he's going to Detroit Mercy.
Yeah.
They got a really good player. We saw him last week. He was sensational.
He's a matchup nightmare, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he has learned now over the years to take the ball to the basket better, too. Yeah. He handles the ball better. He can take you off the dribble a little bit, too, now. That's not his great strength, but he can do that if you come out and crowd him. I think he's playing really well. I think the Spartans are playing at a high level right now, and that's my team for the week.
Well, Danny and I had him against Dunbar when he had 10 at the OG Winter Classic, and people were saying, 10
threes.
threes. And people were like, well, they need to go out on him. He's 6'7". You can go out on him, but his vertical
his
and his
ability
release
to put the ball on the deck
is just
is
right over your head.
LCC tried that a few times, and then he just went right by him. I mean, he put it on the floor and went by him. So, and the thing with Jaquel, I think the reason why some colleges have been a little late to him, he had some injuries. Last year was a really injury-laden season for him. And I think that's why that Lima senior team last year didn't go farther and didn't excel. There's so much attention to Willie Foster and Sean Foster and to Boog Wilson, and rightfully so. Those guys are amazing players. But I'm telling you, Jaquel Cotton is the cog in the wheel of that Lima senior team. Yep. He is the reason that team has a really good chance to be at UD when the season's all said and done.
They have 7 guys who could be starters anywhere.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Coach Simpson's done a really good job of mixing those and doling out minutes and things like that. But Jaquel Cotton's the key.
Yeah. All right, Nate, your Stolly Insurance Player of the Week and your Team of the Week.
So my Stolly Player of the Week is Brady Parker. So Brady Parker in that Lima Cup, even though LCC lost, he kind of had his coming out party. He had 24 points. He had 4 3-pointers. He played incredible. And it wasn't just, in mop-up time or taking junk threes and they just happened to go down. He was running the floor. He was getting rebounds going coast to coast. He wasn't slowing down. He wasn't waiting. He was creating. It's the first time that I have seen Brady Parker be assertive. And he's played really good defense. I've talked about it a lot throughout the year with him. I think being the starter as a sophomore quarterback for that LCC team, he took a lot of hits. It toughened him up. It got him physical. He's not afraid to bang down low anymore. And I think now he realized I don't just have to do this defensive thing. I can play offense too. And if Brady Parker is going to start being this offensive threat for LCC, and you're going to start, I'm not saying he's going to get 24 every night, but if all of a sudden he's if all of a sudden he's a consistent double-digit scorer for LCC, because a lot of times what you see out of Brady is he starts off really well. You'll see 5-6 points in the first quarter, and then nothing else the rest of the game as he's getting kind of in the rotation and moved around. If all of a sudden now, though, this is a consistent threat, this changes the dynamic for that LCC team. We know they got the fantastic freshman. Jordan Pretty can score whenever he wants it seems like. But if Brady all of a sudden is an offensive threat, LCC is a different team, and I really liked what I saw out of him in a big moment at Lima Senior in his first real Lima Cup as a starter, as a focal point. I thought he played fantastic, so he's my star.
I got a question for you, Nate, because you were down on the floor the other night.
Yeah.
Has Jordan Pretty been in the weight room? Because from the top of the bleachers, he looks like he's becoming a bigger, stronger player.
I mean, I think so. To me, I haven't seen, because I've seen LCC quite a few times this year. I mean, he definitely looks like he's put more on, but to me, for him, he's playing differently. Like, I think last year when they had Carson Parker and they had Burke and they had all these other guys that could do some things, and obviously Willie Foster was still there, he had to play differently. I think you're just seeing him play differently. The big thing with Pretty going forward is he just has to be consistent. He has to be present every game. The biggest issue with this LCC team, there's been games where he has kind of he's disappeared. They can't afford for that to happen. So, and then my team of the week, I'm going with Marks. It's Lima Senior to me. I don't know that there's any team that had a bigger week than they did. They played Monday in TCAL semifinals. They played Perrysburg, blew them out on Tuesday night. That's a big win. They were supposed to play a TCAL championship Wednesday. Weather moved that game to Thursday night. So they go up Thursday night. They play in the TCAL championship, a very different style than they want to play. Start has figured out how to play them. They still win that game. So they're off Wednesday night, play Thursday, off Friday night, Lima Cup Saturday. Supposed to come back in Sunday morning, late morning, to get on a bus to go over Huber Heights. That ends up getting canceled Sunday morning. And now, as we're recording this, they're playing Huber Heights Wayne to end their season.
You got the Lakers tomorrow night, too, don't
I mean, the week that they've had, and they've won them all, and they've had to play different styles almost every single night. You can't say enough about what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Miles, your Stolly Insurance Team of the Week and Player of the Week.
All right, so Player of the Week, I was going to go with Tate Bender. He was absolutely fantastic in Shawnee's win over top of OG. But Beckett Berkey, you see these guys that are great scorers, right? And they just sit and wait for the basketball. He scores by moving without the basketball. He had a lot of points against OG by constantly moving, and I just thought that was a really admirable quality for a guy that could just wait and call for the ball. You always see the guys pass me the ball. No, he was moving without the basketball. And then Saturday night against Wayne Trace, his brother Trevick comes out and gets the first 16 out of 21. And we're like, wow, Trevick is going to be our player of the game. Wait a minute. Beckett comes out in the second half and he drains 6 threes.
He did that against Lima Senior.
It was just absolutely unbelievable. And then at the end of the game, when I'm interviewing him on the court, he makes the half-court shot. He made the half-court shot. So he's my player of the game. And is there a better smile in local basketball than Beckett Berkey after he makes a big three? I mean, he's just got one of those great personalities.
Is there a better catch-and-shoot three-pointer, especially for somebody his size, than Beckett Berkey in the area right now?
No.
When he comes off of, like you talk about moving without the basketball, there is no hesitation. He somehow manages to get his feet underneath him. He gets squared. The shot comes off beautifully. It's quick. It's not long. You can't get to it. It's something else to see for a guy his size.
I wondered about that because his footwork is so good. You wonder if there's been any coaching in his family at all that might have helped get him to that particular point.
Well, I kind of chuckle because his dad is a Marion local legend.
Right. Sure
and
is.
They don't get them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shawnee's. Just kidding,
somebody
Marion
got out of
local.
Marion local?
Right. Yeah.
So, Danny, I can tell you this. Berkey did a lot of games with us when he wasn't coaching.
Yep.
And every time we went somewhere, the Marion local people go, hey, when are you moving back?
Yeah.
When are you moving back? When are you moving back?
They'll help him move, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
So needless to say, Shawnee is my team of the week also. Why? Well, they went into Wayne Trace, who's co-GMC champ, right? Three-way champs, still champs, and they hold a tradition-rich program to 25 points.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely crazy. And Jimmy Linder, one of the best coaches in Northwest Ohio, held that program to 25 points. Shawnee was amazing.
Did you walk up to the top of the bleachers without oxygen? That's a long way up there.
It is a big one.
That's the biggest gym
It's a big
around
one.
here, I'm telling you.
So Randy Roberts got 3 steps up, and he says, that's it. I'm not going.
Guys, my player of the week. We don't talk much about this program, but we probably should. They've had a really nice year, and that's the Lima Temple Christian Pioneers. I got a chance to watch them. They got a double win this weekend, Friday, Saturday night. They played Ada the other night in a huge environment. It felt like a tournament game.
The covered wagon.
Yeah. Derek Schultz hits a 35-foot shot to win the game. He's a really good player. I know you had talked about him earlier this year. When I say he's really good, guys, he's a 2-guard, and they've got Malachi Menke, a point guard, so he didn't have to play on the ball, and they let him roam and create. And Bruce Bowen does just a great job.
Sure does.
And I felt bad for our colleague Darren Gilbert. He's sitting on the Ada bench, and Ada had him down, and they score a bucket with 7 seconds to go. Schultz gets the inbound and runs down the floor and just drains one, and the place went nuts. But it was also the enthusiasm of the good folks from Ada and welcoming WOSN in and the folks from Temple Christian. It was just and Kelsey and I talked about it with Nick. It's just a good night of high school basketball. There was no issues. It was just good high school basketball. And both teams, Ada and Temple Christian, are playing really good basketball, which is exciting for their coaches and their fan bases. So I said this, I'm a USV guy, but Temple Christian USV game is going to be a good one. I'm telling you, Temple's playing really good.
Temple Christian's 10-3 in January and February.
Yeah.
They're really playing well right now.
Yeah, so.
Did you and Kelsey Beimer have enough 8x10 high glossies to sign for everybody?
No. There was I gave a shirt away, shoestring, a straw that I sipped a Coke on. So, yeah.
We joke, but we're all in the text thread. We heard about the reception you got there. I mean,
Great.
I mean,
Is that
genuinely
Danny
people.
Holbrook?
Is that
Let
Danny
me just
Holbrook?
clear
Is
the
that
air
Danny
here.
Holbrook?
No, last week, I met Malachi Menke's mother, okay? And she said, oh, you're going to do the game Saturday night and so she came up and talked to us and said hi to us. So that, yeah. All right, guys.
Where can people download your song?
Oh, yeah, Spotify, Apple, yeah. Hey, guys,
It's the only
let's,
song Spotify's ever rejected.
let's get right to it. And no flipping of coins, gentlemen. So put your quarter away there, Mark. I need your 2 locks to make it to the University of Dayton for a championship game.
So not the Final Four.
The Final Four.
The
Oh, it
question
says make it to Dayton.
Yeah, because Dayton's
the-
not a
See,
Final Four
Dayton's-
spot.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
just,
So this
I
is
read the
it.
show sheet.
Okay.
Final Four. The Final
Final
Four.
Final Four?
Yeah.
Final Four?
Final Four.
Okay.
That changes
Number
for
a lot
me.
easier.
There are no dead solid locks. Every coach right now is afraid of the 3 Fs: fouls, fatigue, and the flu.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Flu.
The flu hits your team, and you lose a key guy or 2, and this team that looks like a lock to play in Dayton, that they may not be there. You get a key guy in foul trouble in the first quarter, and now you're struggling to hold. Okay, things happen at this time of year, or teams get tired sometimes this year from all the effort they put out. So there are no dead solid locks right now.
Wow. Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
With that being said,
Would you like to talk about the teams that have the best chance of winning?
and you can pick
That's
two.
why Mark is the best. That's why we got him here. I'm going to have you start, Mark.
Wet blanket shine.
Mark's like, I got to go here to show you. He's like, I got to be there to give some reality.
All right. Would make it great, like one of those political guys that has to answer all the questions. I can't recall. I don't know.
How about this? Do the Rushi Raiders count?
Yeah, because they're on my list.
All right, because the Rushi Raiders are my pick to win that division. Okay, I have seen them. I've seen them on tape. I think they are as good as it gets. They've got 11 seniors. They got a quality point guard in Borgers. They got a big kid in Francis inside. Cordonier can play. They played Richmond Heights in the state championship twice in a row, and they know how to compete at that level. I think Rushi goes to the state tournament.
Did you boys hear that? Did you boys hear that?
Yeah, it's an incredibly smart take.
Yeah,
I can't believe nobody else
I
is
said
taking
it like 12 weeks ago, and these guys were
What
like,
are you
"Hey,
talking-
stupid, hey, stupid."
First of all, you understand that everything we do here is recorded. If you had said it right now, Nick would have inserted you saying Rushi is going
That's
to
a
win.
great point. It really
I
is.
guarantee you, as you watching this, that didn't cut to you saying Rushi's going to win.
Well-
So you can rewrite history all you want, Danny, but nobody here believes
What you guys don't know is after the show, I'm taping. Rushi won. Merry Christmas.
we give you all kinds of grief about it because
Yeah.
you had just gone on about how much you love DSJ and that nobody's stopping DSJ.
No, that's not
then you
true.
went, Rushi's winning it all.
That's not true. That's not true. I said last year after I watched them play in the state championship, I said, man alive, they're bringing everybody back. I've watched them play. Now, Diamond Dave's got a different take, so we'll get his take.
Okay.
Who's your other team, Mark?
Lima Senior.
I'm a senior.
I like those 7 guys they got. I like what Coach Simpson's done with those guys this year. I think it's their turn again. You know, they were there a few years ago, and I just think that I think it's their turn again. I think this is a good road. Obviously, they're going to get a great chance to get through the regionals. And I think the state's already decided that, we're not going to bracket them in the state semifinals until we get to find who's in the regionals. We don't even know where the state semifinals are going to be played at yet.
And the Wesson brothers ain't coming back.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. So I think Lima Senior can get there this year.
Good picks. Good picks. Nate, let's go to you.
So just to make sure that I was consistent, right? I was writing down everybody who I said would win the district, right? And I got Lima Senior, Shawnee, Elida, Bluffton, Spencerville, Collided, DSJ, right? That's who I said is going to win.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So that's clearly I have to
So you gotta
pick
pick two of
from
those.
that
Yeah,
pool.
sure do.
Of that pool, looking at it, I think Lima Senior is definitely one of my picks. Second one, Shawnee or Spencerville, and I think I'm going to go with Shawnee. Shawnee's got a tough regional. They got a tough road. I think that they will get there. But I think they learned a lot about themselves last year in that regional, right? They went to a regional semi last year that nobody really expected them to get to. And then Beckett Berkey had to score 95% of the points in that game that they only ended up losing by 7. The growth of Trevick Berkey is a huge difference maker on this team. The defense that they play is otherworldly currently. You can get a Jagger Hutchins who in any night can all of a sudden get hot from 3 and not miss and get you 25 points. Tate Bender plays some of the best lockdown defense that you're going to find in the area. And they can run a 6'7" guy with a wingspan of 7'4" off of the bench into Mola Ojo.
Yes.
Matthew Stiles has been inserted into that starting lineup and has really given them a lot of really good minutes. I think Shawnee last year was ahead of schedule. They were looking at this year. They learned a lot in that regional semis. I think even though that region is not going to be easy for them, I think they'll get through it. And I think ultimately, I do think that they'll be playing at UD.
Dave, let's go to you.
Final Four or championship game?
2 teams, Final Four.
Final Four, I'm going Rushi and St. John's.
Oh,
Okay.
I think they're both going to get there.
Is that where that matchup will be? Is it
Yes,
semis?
it would be in the
Right,
semis.
okay.
Now, again, you get into the drama. Are we going to match them up in the semis because of location, or is the OHSA going to say, well, I know they both have great fan bases?
money.
Yes,
They're going to want UD filled.
exactly.
They're going to want UD filled.
So you want them in the finals?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm the OHSA and I'm looking at those matchups, now obviously we don't know who they'll play. We don't know who else will be down there. But if you're looking and you're looking at those two, and it's do we want that in the semifinal? Or we want the final. I would think the hedge for the OHSAA would be at UD.
Okay. In this whole 7-division,
I know what
whatever you want to call it,
Malarkey.
what has the OHSAA done correctly to put this tournament together?
I'm still
Mark,
waiting.
you're going to see the smallest number of fans in state championship games in the history of, I'm just making a prediction, in the history of the OHSA. You watch.
Well, it kind of depends because we know St. John's will draw. We know Russia will draw. We know
I'm talking
that
about as a
Shawnee will
whole,
draw.
for the whole
tournament.
weekend. Yeah.
Could
People
be.
used to
Well, yeah,
just
because it's
go
only
to go.
one. Because it's only one day compared to two. You're only
Correct.
getting a gate one
Well,
day.
you don't have the other 3 teams or the other 2 teams that are out staying in town and watching your games. Their
Correct.
fan bases aren't.
Well, that's what I mean. You're
Yeah.
only going to have a gate for one day compared to 2 days, so
Right.
you're already going to be down at
You
least
had to
half.
get me started, didn't you?
So those are my 2 teams to be in the Final Four. If you were saying championship game only, I would say Russia because I'm assuming they'll have to play St. John's in the semi. And because of what Russia did to Marion Local, again, we're talking about a bunch of winners as far as kids are concerned with Marion Local. They're gonna circle the wagons after that game with Russia, and they're going to be ready and they're going to be focused like never before. And I just really like Marion Local in Division 6.
And I agree. I do think whoever comes out of that district has an incredibly good chance to end up at UD. Whether it's Spencerville, Marion Local, whoever. I think whoever wins that gets there.
All right, buddy. I know you're going to pick USD. Let's go.
Waynesville Goshen.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a stone cold lock. If Coach Triplett wears the red shirt and the white tie, Shawnee is going all the way. Now, I love Shawnee because when you get to the tournament level, guys, you got to play defense, right?
Nope.
You don't see teams that make it to the Final Four without playing defense. You got to take care of the basketball, which they do really well, and then you got to have that guy that can get you a bucket when you need it, because you're always going to have that moment where you need that guy to step forward, and I think Shawnee has all those right. My second team is senior, just a depth. Who's going to be deeper in them that they play? They have star power. You talk about a guy that gets him a basket. Who's defending Jaquel Cotton, right? He's going to hit a 3 or he's going to go around you. You could have one of the other guys score that bucket as well. But the only thing that really bothers me about senior that I think could stop them, we had them against Dayton Dunbar, right? Rebounding the basketball, sometimes they don't do a great job of that. They don't have that one guy that says, just go out there and get us the 10 rebounds that we need. Dunbar stayed in that game against them because they rebounded the basketball very
And
well.
we saw Shawnee push him off the line, and senior high really struggled shooting the ball, and then they were rim protectors in there. Look, senior high got a rough road when they get into regionals. The teams they're going to be playing,
Absolutely.
I promise you they're going to have guys 6'6", 6'8", 6'9", and senior high's got to make shots, which I don't think that's going to issue, but if it is.
That Winton Woods game is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
No. But in the second half against Dunbar, they team rebounded.
Yes.
All 5 guys came back and got the basketball. Now, it did kind of slow them down with the tempo that they want to play with, but I think for them, the key is they take care of the glass. I think they're going to be in Dayton.
You know what I think has been odd about this whole thing we've done tonight? How many times have we said the name Sean Foster? And that kid is really, really talented. And because of what Joe Cotton has done lately and because of the athleticism of Willie Foster, we kind of forget how good a player Sean Foster
he's unbelievable, isn't
is.
he?
So they've got a lot of weapons.
So who's your 2?
Shawnee and senior.
Shawnee senior. Guys, I'm going to go with a couple that have been talked about already. Russia, obviously, I've said them all year. I don't think people forget about this senior class went through a coaching change. Their coach was killed in an automobile wreck.
Correct.
And Cordonier took over this program, and I was down there a couple years ago after this happened, and this community really rallied together. The 12 seniors, I mean, if you're going to win a state championship, that's when you do it.
Sure.
They are loaded, guys. We joke and we kid, but they're so athletic. They're so good. You got to watch them play, and I think you're going to get to see them at Dayton. And then my next one is Shawnee. I love the fact that I do not think Shawnee will play a team that can put 3 bigs out there like they do. And their defensive length, and you said it best, Mark, they cover so much ground on transition offense. They're so fun to – that was the thing when I had Lima Senior and Shawnee. I was so excited to watch senior high run up into the floor. Well, guess what? Shawnee didn't back down one bit from them. So, and look, if I had to put a third team on there, it would be Lima Senior, but for me, it's Russia and Shawnee.
You talked about nobody will have 3 guys that are 6'8".
Yeah.
If they do, they're going to be plotters.
Right. Right.
They're not going to be 6'8" athletes
No,
like
that's a
you
great
see
point.
like we'll have to play against Shawnee because those 6'6", 6'7" guys are athletes.
Yeah, I like what Miles said too about Shawnee. You got to have a guy you can put on the block, and when you give him push the ball into the well, he's going to get you a bucket. You got to have that guy. You got to have great guard play. Now, look, Shawnee's guards are limited offensively a little bit, but I still think they're good enough with the system they run that they can get there.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, usually it's Beckett or Trevick that ends up bringing the ball up the court anyway.
Yeah,
they play the guard position.
Well, like Mark said, if they get a rebound, they're not giving it up. They're going right down the floor.
Right.
So yeah.
No, and all the teams that we mentioned, though, they're the teams that, boy, you give them a little bit of daylight and they'll rip your heart out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the next thing you know is a 2-4 point game, and it's 15 now. We have no chance. All these teams that we talked about, watch out. You better play great basketball against them, or it's going to be over in a hurry.
Gentlemen, happy tournament time. Dave, Bowen, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Mark Shine, thanks for coming in. As always, Miles, Nate, you guys were awesome tonight. Let's do it again next week, fellas.
You want to?
Yeah, let's
All
do
right,
it. Let's
all
do it,
right.
wise man,
I'll come
everybody.
back.